Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, this is from the Apollo series as well. It was interesting how I found this one. I think I've covered this before, but if not, I'm covering it today. The last date is Friday, 20 September 2013, and it was sourced May 5th, 1979. Guardian's Office, Edition 4. Hepatitis in the Cadet org. Hepatitis. Hepatitis. Guardian Office Executive Directive, Number 4, by Stephen Lamar, for the Board of Directors of the Churches of Scientology. An excerpt. Then in February, the hepatitis scene happened, and we were swarmed over by county and state health inspectors. I guess that's the only time you can get people to come out, huh? When they're afraid something's going to spread? I don't even know, how does hepatitis spread, you guys? I forgot. The county inspector, an ally, found out about the existence of the fountain and said this is not okay, and let's quickly work together and handle it. He continually predicted an attack from another agency and was not able to say which one. Found the annex could be used and was legal with a small amount of renos and started to work. Sure enough, we were raided by two special agents. Of the state. But because of our taking full responsibility, see, that's the trick, you guys. Taking full responsibility for our scene and well into having the annex ready for use, there was nothing they could do to us. There was nothing they could do to us. They didn't get the memo, you guys. I will not go into detail of what they could have done, but will indicate that we were suited in 1974. I think that's a lawsuit, you guys, for running illegal childcare. Remember all the babies that died in the nurseries? It's public knowledge, public record. And this would have been our second offense. Imagine the LAPD knew what was going on. First time we got probation. And you could imagine what the second offense would have gotten us. And remember, you guys, the lady that I covered, I forget what her name was. She really, really tried to run the daycares and the nurseries as best that she could, but she had no one to help her. And she was very, very regretful and was explaining how she really tried to do the right thing. And I really, I admire her coming out and talking about that, because that wasn't easy to do. She did try her best, and she didn't get any support. Children are not important in Scientology. But not all of Scientologists are heartless in any way or form. Tita, That means auntie in Spanish. I've had runaway cadets here. Oh, wait a minute, you guys. I've had runaway cadets here that must have gotten into the children's prison camp. Children's prison camp. Pinellas County has also had experiences with Scientology children. In a visit to the cadet school, my colleagues have determined that there were signs of child neglect. Signs of child neglect and abuse. And abuse. They wrote up a report, and the case was forwarded to the juvenile office. However, Scientology lodged a complaint. Scientology lodged a complaint against the publication of the report in the press and won. It is still sealed today. Isn't that great, you guys? It is still sealed today. I wonder if some of those Los Angeles politicians and counselors and commissioners and all those folks over there could unseal that document regarding child neglect and abuse from 1979 that still is going on. I don't think it has to do with a dispute over the investigation. They just wanted to make sure no information got to the public. They didn't want any bad PR. Ariane Jackson. At the time, they were 2, 4, and 6 years old. Scientology put them in a children's establishment. What does that mean? Later, they made cadets out of them. That was 10 years ago. Reporter, can you still remember leaving them? Ariane Jackson. I hate to think about it. They climbed into a special bus. A special bus. An older man from the Sea Org tore me away and pushed me into the car. I could still wave to them, and then we drove to the airport. You see what they do? They with the parents, they really fluff them up, and they make them think that their children are going to be okay. I mean, I know I'm critical, but imagine you're a young mother or father, and maybe you're impressionable. And the minute they trick you, they love bomb you. They tell you, oh, the children are going to be in good hands or whatever. You see what happened? The older Sea Org guy pushed her into the car because he didn't want her to have any second thoughts. That's aiding and abetting in kidnapping. Or, in my opinion, all you have to do is look up the definition online, since everything's accessible nowadays. That seems to be a direct kidnapping in many ways. If the parents are not aware where the children are going, and they're doing it under duress, and they're being lied to about where the children are going. Reporter, does it often happen that children are separated from their parents? Ariane Jackson, yes. Still going on in 2024. LAPD, you know what they do? They sign up for drug-free America and all that stuff, because everything's just hunky-dory. Even though those young children are put into ethics, are oftentimes locked into basements or really nasty, run-down rooms when they're put on punishment. They could be told that they're treasonous. They could be told that they're committing mutiny. They could be told that they need to admit to their overts and withholds. And unless they admit to their overts and withholds, they will stay in that room and get punishment. Oftentimes the children have to wear the same clothing for a week and more. Often made to use the bathroom in a bucket, not allowed to leave the room. When they do get fed, they get the last bottom of the barrel scraps, which are often the most nasty bean burritos and beans and rice with no spices, no anything. Yeah, that's what ethics handlings are. Children, when they cry or they want to express themselves, they are told that they are interbulated. There's another phrase. I'm still learning some of the phrases. That's child abuse. That's child abuse per Child Protective Services. That's child abuse per Department of Justice. That is child abuse per most United States statutes. Yet it still goes on. Hiding behind religious freedom when the policies that were written, allegedly, by L. Ron Hubbard incorporate and utilize punishments and things to do that are actually child abuse. Okay, I'm going to go back. Reporter, do you know of other cases? Arian Jackson, yes. If the partners separate in a divorce, oh, this is kryptonite. Go see Cupcake Mom. When I start feeling better, you guys, I want you to help me. We have to start a cupcake movement. And one of them is in the Sea Org. Then that is the better person. That's the kidnapper. The children are awarded by the organization. What does that mean? Then what could be better for their children than Scientology training? Oh, read you guys remember that book I read? Well, I didn't read the whole thing. Lori Hodgson, please go get her book. Not all the parents are actively trying to abuse their children. A lot of them try to protect them. And that's when Scientology and various Scientologists start really going after them. Snipped from The Dark Side of Scientology. Okay, just for the heck of it, I'm going to click on this. Let's see, translate. Oh yeah, Scientology intercepted it. They're so 1952. Anytime you see the lottery numbers, that's the funny thing that Scientology tries to put there. You know, even the graphics in that look like it's from 1982. They also like to put the PORN images, and they think it's funny. Misogyny, you know. I don't know if I want to go into this. Okay, I do, because it's regarding Cadet.org and the children. Affidavit of Howard Schomer, 13. The conditions aboard the Apollo were generally deplorable. The blankmost quarters were cramped and damp. They were roach-infested, handwritten some. Married couples were assigned to cabins in the aft end of the ship. The lady that I was just reading her account, she talked about the aft a lot. There was little privacy. Yeah, they really don't like privacy, that's for sure. The walls were paper thin, and the food was both inadequate and atrocious. Again, you guys, how could it be possible that some people, and especially children, did not die on this Apollo? You tell me. A lot of sharks out there in the oceans. By contrast, the birthing areas for LRH and MSH. Who's MSH? Anybody know who MSH is? It's not Miscavige. We're plush, immaculately clean, and stately. See, that's what they create classes in Scientology. Both LRH and MSH were aware of the apparent filthy conditions on board the remainder of the ship. I really wish I knew who MSH was. Oh, it's Mary Sue Hubbard. Yeah, I'm not really thrilled. I'm not really impressed with her. Aware of the apparent filthy conditions on board the remainder of the ship. Everyone worked extremely long hours. They still do. Including the children. Including the children. Department of Homeland Security. And there was little time for sleep and virtually no time for recreation. Conditions for those in the Rehabilitation Project Force, hereinafter referred to as RPF, were even worse. Yes, and there's also an RPF's RPF. 14. When I first boarded the Apollo, I was told that children had to be at least 12 years of age to come on board. My daughter Valerie was only 10, and therefore I placed her. Don't jump on this guy yet. In the care of another Scientology family, the rule later changed, and at age 10 and a half years, Valerie came aboard the ship in November 1972, when the Cadet org was formed. At almost the same time, I was transferred to ASHO. And thus, I spoke too soon. We were further separated until I reboarded the Apollo in March 1973. See, this is where I have a problem, but I'm going to just hush. 15. When I first joined the Sea Org and later aboard the Apollo, I was told that Valerie would receive an education. See what they do, you guys? And that we would remain a close family unit. Valerie received no formal education aboard the Apollo. And when we later moved to land base in Clearwater, she was allowed to attend school only because it was mandatory. Because it was mandatory, Board of Education. Under the laws of the state of Florida. Kind of looks like the only ones they follow in Scientology. "16. On board the Apollo, Valerie became a messenger. A messenger. First for MSH, and later a Commodore messenger for LRH. You know what they had the messengers for? She became good friends with Tonya Burden, since they were both Commodore messengers. The messengers served as personal servants. See, that's what I said. For both LRH and MSH. They were all handwritten, all replaced with mostly. Listen to this. I've talked about this, you guys. Wakey, MF Wakey. Young girls. You think those girls weren't the ones getting hard? Hello? That's why we really need to keep a list of the names of the men that were on there. Think I'm gonna stop? Who worked very hard and saw to every woman's fancy of LRH and MSH. It's exactly the same thing that's going on with when Tom Cruise wanted his motorcycle detailed and all that. These people know. It's sickening. They would be responsible for every detail of the lives of LRH, including grooming. Can you imagine? The running of the messages and developing plans to be carried out worldwide. Later at land base, I heard they were involved in the coding and decoding of telexes to the Scientology organizations and LRH worldwide. Gotta get a sip of water, you guys. "17. While on board the Apollo, we often worked for 12 to 14 hours a day and longer, if necessary, if our stats were down. You know whose stats were always down? LRH, the fat, balding, black-tooth, pot-belly, convicted felon who believes kissing a 7-year-old girl on the lips, and if she retracts herself, she's got a problem because she should remember all her sexual escapades from her previous lives." The pay for this work was approximately $12 per week. When I later worked for ASI, Author Services Incorporated, I received approximately $160 gross or $125 net a week. From this pay was handwritten I had to pay, subtracted money for room, board, and medical expenses. They don't pay for anything in Scientology. 18. We received very little medical or dental care. On board the Apollo, there was never any doctor or dentist. Well, they also locked up the passports, but, no big deal, right? It's what they always do. 19. As I previously explained, life in Scientology was military-like. Yeah, you could say it's military-like. It's wannabe. And for any infraction of a rule, one could be sent to the EPF, that's the Estates Project Force, or RPF, Rehabilitation Project Force, which is it's a prison. Spent a large amount of time, 3 months, in the RPF, and my daughter Valerie was in both the EPF and the RPF when she was a mere 11 years old. Both the EPF and RPF were like prison. Yes, they are. While in the EPF, Valerie was forced to work long hours, washing clothes and cleaning cabins. See, they need children to be their maids. Why do you think a lot of these folks aren't speaking up? Wakey, MF, wakey. We barely had a chance to see each other because of the long hours, and in order to get any liberty to see Valerie, I had to petition MSH. Yeah, the one that's using her as a slave maid labor. 20. The RPF was even worse than the EPF. The slightest infraction or decrease in productivity could result in a messenger appearing and ordering you to the RPF. The RPF came into existence in January 1974, and all crew aboard the Apollo lived in constant fear of being sent there. While in the RPF, I had virtually no time, not allowed, to see Valerie since I was working the whole time, and the rules of the RPF. 21. Life in the RPF was despicable and degrading. You lost all sense of self-esteem, freedom, and human dignity. It was a world unto itself, and you felt like a leper or a member of the caste, the Untouchables. It's what narcissists love. You could not speak to other crew members unless you were spoken to, and you had to run everywhere. Does LRH look like he ever ran in his life? The conditions were even worse than on board the regular quarters. Damp, cold, and again, roach-infested. The food was substandard, and members of the RPF only ate after others had eaten. Just what I was talking about, what they do to the children when they're in ethics. Or on some other type of punishment. Doing the, what is that one rundown that they do? They call it the murder routine. It's the murder routine auditor's questions. It's great to ask children those questions, yeah. Right there, that's child abuse, but, what do I know? The food was substandard, and members of the RPF only ate after others had eaten. Often there was little leftover food. Members of the RPF were forced to wear black boiler suits. We slept very little every day and awoke each morning to swab the decks. We were allowed 30 seconds to shower and had to be up and ready in the morning within 15 minutes. There was supposed to be time for study and auditing, but this rarely occurred, except in the RPF, where it was the only way to get out, was to complete a training, an auditing program given to you. Okay, I'm going to stop there, you guys. I'm going to probably pick this up later with the disgusting Scientology morons. Let kid die. I'm going to have to check that one out. So I'll leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.